All right, we now circle back to our breakout star of the year, and we will start with my man Kenny's selection.
Kenny Florian's 2022 breakout star of the year, Alex Pereira.
Oh! That's it! That's why!
You cannot stand in front of that man.
Can't play with that dude,
that
man.
That power is different.
Okay? You need to have knock him out. Listen, you need to knock him out.
Here's that left hook.
Here in the back.
Oh, now right. Adesanya's on one left. Two more. Down goes the champion. Pereira trying to close the show. That'll do it.
It's like nuts.
Undisputed middleweight champion.
Oh, my God.
Did it again.
Oh, my goodness.
Pandemonium at Madison Square Garden. Disappointment for Adesanya.
A new world champion.
Bro, in 4 fights. This dude is crazy. Look at Glover. Oh, my goodness.
And for Nelly Feliz and Plenio Cruz, Alex Pereira's right-hand man. As Kenny Florian and others kept saying, Adesanya's going to have to be perfect for 25 minutes.
And Pereira doesn't need to be perfect.
Well, and if this doesn't lay the foundation for an immediate rematch, of course, Adesanya, the long-reigning champion, I don't know what does, but Alex Pereira realizes a dream tonight.
Unbelievable. Ken Flo, your breakout star of the year, Alex Pereira. And, you know, we talk about this devastating situation for Damar Hamlin in the NFL, and that happened to be a game that was shaping up as a game of the year, right? The entire eyes of the sports world were on the Bengals and the Bills. Huge playoff implications, right? And I bring it up in the context of this fight between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira. We heard from a lot of pro fighters that don't necessarily watch a lot of MMA. They wanted to see this matchup. And with the entire world watching, Alex Pereira did it again, puts a capstone on a huge year. And as such, your breakout star of 2022.
Yeah, as soon as Alex Pereira was contracted by the UFC. I wanted to see that fight between him and Israel Adesanya just based on their history, based on the fact he is one of the only strikers on the planet in mixed martial arts in that division that can defeat Israel Adesanya. That fight was everything we expected it to be. Just how important it was, how crazy it was. It just delivered on every level. And you look at what Alex Pereira did in 2022, defeating a very underrated and very tough Bruno Silva, was it back in March, then going out there and knocking out Sean Strickland in round 1 in July, and then shortly after in November getting the knockout in round 5 when he needed it. Absolutely needed that, and goes out there and defeats one of the most dominant, one of the most popular champions of the UFC has had in a very long time. That's how stars are made. For me, it was a pretty easy pick. Alex Pereira had so much pressure on his shoulders. Everyone was expecting a lot from him, and he goes out there and delivers. Just unbelievably in 2022. So yeah, that's my breakout star of the year.
And could be another pick your trophy guy, right? Could get knockout of the year, could get fighter of the year. A huge year for Alex Pereira. For me, breakout star of the year, I'm going to go Marlon Chito Vera. And I would say perhaps no category is as open to interpretation as breakout star of the year. I do believe, though, that Chito hit a different chord this past year. Now one of the top 15 to 20 superstars in the UFC. In my mind, I'm not sure if the internal metrics back up that sentiment, but top 15 UFC superstar for me. First 2 UFC main events this year, or last year, I should say, defeated Rob Font, then, of course, the knockout of Dominic Cruz. And were it not for Sean O'Malley's ability and star power, never mind their head-to-head series, and, of course, the Henry Cejudo comeback, Chito would and should be fighting for the title right now. Instead, the company guy happy to fight Corey Sandhagen, who you can argue is the toughest matchup for him in the entire division. So my dear friend, Marlon Chito Vera, my 2022 breakout star of the year. All right, that brings us to upset of the year. A lot of big upsets in 2022. Most would argue, though, none bigger than what went down back in August in the welterweight division, Dateline, Salt Lake City.
Kenny Florian's 2022 upset of the year. Leon Edwards over Kamaru Usman.
You know, he's a minute and a half from losing his championship fight. So you leave it all out there. It does not matter how this fight ends. When that final bell rings, whether you're laying flat on your back or you're in the middle with your head down as his hand gets raised. He's going to win. You got to empty the gas tank here.
Yeah.
He may have resigned himself to losing a decision.
Well, that's what Dean Thomas said.
Yeah.
Dean feels like that would be a moral victory from Leon Edwards.
But that is not the cloth from which he is cut. I mean, that is a dejected... champion. But Leon Edwards becomes the first Jamaican-born UFC champion, and the proof is in the pudding. You don't have to leave the UK to realize a UFC world title. The belt wheels up to Birmingham tomorrow as Leon Edwards breaks through here in Salt Lake City, Utah. What a sport, what a moment.
I mean, you got to be kidding me with this mixed martial arts stuff, Ken Flo. I'm glad that you brought me in back in 2008. Pretty incredible result, Leon Edwards.
It really is, man. Again, we are probably biased, but no sport brings in more drama than mixed martial arts, John. And, you talk about having a script written for you, everything from, what was building up for that fight, to the fight itself, to what the cornerman was saying in between rounds, to what you said prior to that knockout. Everything was just picture perfect. And it's written for a major movie, that kind of upset. Kamaru Usman was, the pound for pound best on a lot of people's, radar, or at the very least on their list as, the best champion in the game. And this is a division, the welterweight division, which has, perennially been one of the best historically in mixed martial arts, one of the most difficult. And Kamaru having that level of dominance and seeing the matchup, the style matchup heading into this fight, a striker in Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman being the dominant wrestler, you said, well, this is a great matchup for Usman. This is just going to be another W. How he does it is going to be the question. It started out not very great for Kamaru Usman. Leon Edwards looked like he was going to get the upset early, but then it was Kamaru roaring back rounds 2, 3, 4. And Leon needed a knockout to win, and boy, did he deliver. Just unbelievable. This is the kind of thing that really can make an amazing movie. So, yeah, Leon Edwards could win a lot of different categories here. For me, it's upset of the year.
I mean, this singular moment can be his life's work in a lot of respects. It really is incredible. All of it building to this, how long it took Leon Edwards to get the title fight. Then the way it materialized through 4+ rounds, you're right. It's a movie. It's a major motion picture. And it's going to be interesting to see how they spin it forward, because I thought it was interesting that they announced the pay-per-view for March in the UK, but without the main event. So we'll see if Kamaru Usman is ready to dance come mid-March. He's a pretty good dancer. All right, my upset of the year. So, I mean, Larissa Pacheco over Kayla Harrison, right? What are we doing here? But largely we do focus on the UFC, but I'm not sure there was any bigger upset that what she was able to do against the seemingly unbeatable and no longer undefeated Kayla Harrison. But for me, it's Carla Esparza against Rose Namajunas. And with all due respect to Carla Esparza, who, by the way, gets my trophy here today, I just think you had to look far and wide for people who were picking her to win that fight. I don't even care what the odds suggest. Yes, it ended up being one of the more listless title fights and inactive title fights in UFC history, right? But to me, though, when I look back on the totality of the year, that was the biggest upset. Rose Namajunas wanted to get that one back, so to speak, and, did nothing to get that one back. So the upset of the year for me, with respect to all others, Carla Esparza becoming a 2-time UFC strawweight champion. All right, now we get to our Anthony Rumble Johnson knockout of the year. Of course, recently renaming the award in honor of the late, great UFC contender, Anthony Rumble Johnson. Every year really seems as though this category is as hotly contested as any. We begin with Ken Flo's best knockout of 2022.
Kenny Florian's 2022 Knockout of the Year, Chito Vera.
Gate of $1.735 million here in San Diego, highest grossing sporting event in arena history.
You see Dominic Cruz and Eric Del Fierro, such a long-standing relationship. He's like, get your points and then get off the
Starting the jab. He's hurt. He's wobbled.
Chito's got to get a little more busy.
He's got to get busier. That is the key word there. He's having... Chito ends it! Double-digit finishes in the bantamweight division.
I came to the sport to be a world champion. I have the heart, I have the work ethic, and now I have the people that will get me there. So I'm not tripping. I will keep working, I will keep kicking and Ecuador, I'm gonna be a world champion.
Second award today for Marlon Chito Vera, Ken Flo, most decorated finisher in UFC bantamweight history, and he gets your knockout of the year.
I love what he has done with his career and how consistent he's been in improving as a fighter and now proving himself to be elite, truly elite this year. Getting a win over Dominic Cruz is very impressive and very difficult to do. Getting a finish over Dominic Cruz is yet another thing. And the fact that he was able to do that at 135 pounds, getting a knockout at 135 pounds against one of the hardest guys to hit in the sport in Dominic Cruz, to me, that was extremely impressive. It was brutal. It was well-timed. He made adjustments throughout that fight, and he did it in Dominic Cruz's backyard, man. Chito is an absolute savage, and I think we're going to continue to see big things from him in 2023.
All right, good stuff there. A lot of great knockouts in 2022. How many of them, though, resulted in a UFC gold belt? We mentioned Alex Pineda's knockout of Israel Adesanya. That produced a world title. But there was another one that didn't get nearly the shine nor attention it deserved. Let me take it to Dallas, Texas, UFC 277.
Jon Anik's 2022 Knockout of the Year, Brandon Moreno.
Under a minute now to go, round 3, championship rounds potentially forthcoming. Oh! Moreno cracks him with a spinning back fist out the other side. Oh, beautiful kick to the body. Oh, he earned it back. He holds down cross. Could be the beginning of the end. Brandon Moreno is the UFC flyweight champion.
It's that liver kick. He just made up his mind once again. He's going to be a dog. Listen to the impact.
And for Brandon Moreno, underneath that right eye, nothing more than a souvenir. What a moment for Tijuana, Mexico's Brandon Moreno. But Brandon Moreno is an absolute savage.
So to help with this exercise, Cody Merrow, our producer, and by the way, great job across the board with all of this audio today, Cody, but he'll send us a list of perhaps his nominees. And Brandon Moreno's knockout of Kai Kara France for the interim flyweight championship was not even on the list of nominees. But dude, like, kicks a guy to the body to win a world title. What am I missing? Right? Like, that's as simple as it is for me. Like, I know we're not even up against the clock, but I'm going to move on. I mean, that's it. Like, I know it wasn't as sensational or as jaw-dropping necessarily, but Brandon might have been losing this fight. You know, he was damaged. I don't know, man. That's a sensational way to win a world title. Brandon Moreno, my 2022 knockout of the year. All right. Well, Cody, as I mentioned, doing a great job on the show today. He does try to stay in his producer lane, but you did feel like there were some notable omissions this year. And as I understand it, you have a third selection here for knockout of the year.
Well, I do, John. I do. Hey, sometimes you got to say less to say a lot. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's the words you don't say.
My man.
So the award that you didn't give was one that was voted the second best KO of the year on Tapology. It was the 9th front kick KO in UFC history. This man was 2-3 in the UFC, but he's got 5 bonuses. He's 5 for 5 in bonuses when he fights in the UFC. So you're always getting your money's worth. I know I have every time I've seen him fight. In
you love this guy.
I love it. I love it. In 2023, he's in the Conor conversation, maybe a potential clash with Eddie Alvarez, you know, who is a free agent. But with that, I'm going to bring you back to May 7th, 2022, the Footprint Center in Phoenix, Arizona.
Cody Merrow's 2022 Knockout of the Year, Michael Chandler.
But honestly, that was a call.
That'll do it, Michael Chandler. Whoa. Front kick to the face.
Kick to the face.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
They are attending to Tony Ferguson.
Oh my goodness.
Tony Ferguson is Chandler.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
That was crazy. That was one thing we have never seen before. No one has ever knocked out Tony Ferguson, and certainly not with one shot.
Nobody has stopped. I look at you. I look back. You on the ground.
That was an incredible shot. Wow. Let's look at this again. Here it is. right up the middle. Watch this kick.
Oh, he
Front
saw it.
kick to the chin.
Oh my goodness.
God, those
He saw
replays
it,
will
Joe.
kill you.
You can see Chandler's eyes light up. And he threw that thing with all of himself. You know, Anderson did something like this to Vitor, but it was not like this. I'm looking at you like, what, is it over? My goodness.
I mean, that was the best front kick to the face of all time.
9th front kick knockout in UFC history. We can let you know now Tony Ferguson is on the stool. Michael Chandler with a knockout that is going to reverberate deep into next week and beyond.
I remember the kick, though. A lot of times you don't remember the knockouts. You don't remember. You're just like, I got to see it on replay. But I remember standing in front of him. I remember him circling this way, and I was like, let's see what happens. And there is no let's see what happens gingerly with me. Right. I'm just like, let's see what happens. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's chalky, but for a lot of people, it's not only the knockout of the year, but one of the greatest knockouts of all time, Cody. I get it.
Well, it's not Jeopardy. I'm not trying to make people guess. I'm trying to give people the right awards. I'm trying to make sure the rightful people like Ray Longo head home with the hardware. That's why I got to put together the notes sometimes.
Longo was your coach of the year, too?
I put him first on the list for a reason. What do you mean?
Unbelievable.
I'm biased, of course. When Ray's calling me,
he had a big year. He had a big year. And by the way, Khabib Nurmagomedov and Javier Mendez, right? Notable omission, certainly for what they've done with Islam Makhachev, right? And yeah, that probably should have been in that conversation as well. But yeah, I get it. It's good.
Yeah, well, Coach Khabib in the corner of Bilal as well. But yeah, love Michael Chandler. Someday I'm going to get the payoff of having the custom Houston Astros Michael Chandler jersey. But like I said, you always get your money's worth when you watch Michael Chandler. My fight of the year was also Poirier versus Chandler. So I just love it. Love it. Great 2022 for Michael Chandler. Looking forward to the next year.
All right. Thank you, buddy. All right, just 3 or 4 categories to go. We're going to rip through these before we get on out of here. Submission of the year. All right, runner-up. How about Jim Miller, Ken Flo? Submits Donald Cowboy Cerrone, UFC 276, 40th UFC appearance, 24th UFC win. Both of those are records right now. 11th career win by submission in the UFC. 3rd win in a row overall. He will be 40 next August. So that's the honorable mention of the venerable Jim Miller. But now we will get to the winners for 2022 Submission of the Year.
Kenny Florian's 2022 Submission of the Year. Islam Makhachev.
Minus 195 betting favorite to become a first-time UFC champion against the credentialed Charles Du Bronx Oliveira, who is plus 165. Oliveira in yellow, Makhachev in red.
I think Oliveira would...
Knockdown from Makhachev.
If Makhachev can pass the guard, he's got the arm triangle.
Finisher in UFC history, the belt en route to Dagestan. Wow. And new undisputed UFC lightweight champion, Islam Makhachev.
Ken Flo, Submission of the Year, Islam Makhachev. Kenny, I have said I've never seen an athlete who had more pressure and more expectation in terms of becoming an undisputed champion than Islam Makhachev, and man, did he break through with style points there to submit Charles Du Bronx Oliveira.
Yeah, and how about this? You know, he was going against a guy who was on an 11-fight win streak and had the most submission wins in UFC history at 16. So, you know, to go out there, and of course it was set up by a knockdown, but to go out there and submit that level of fighter, I thought was huge. To do that in a main event, everyone's watching, one of the most anticipated title fights of the year. And again, doing it against a guy who's been running hot for a long time, and Charles Oliveira, doing it by submission. That was a huge statement. So yeah, Makhachev getting that clean arm triangle. I love it.
All right, so you heard from me. I mean, I kind of wanted to give the hardware to Jim Miller, but there was an accomplishment by the now former champion, Charles Oliveira, in the desert that I just had to highlight. Take a listen.
Jon Anik's 2022 Submission of the Year. Charles Oliveira.
This is crazy.
Absolutely nuts. Through half a round. Gaethje back to work on the leg kick, landing the right hand. Big knockdown with the right for Oliveira. Now trying to transition to the back.
This is not good.
going to take the arm.
Yep, he's going to take his arm.
Oh, big elbows from Oliveira.
Justin's in a lot of trouble here. I mean, this Charles Oliveira, man. I mean, Rogan, this
He's got a triangle. He's got a triangle.
Oh, he's got a triangle, too. This Oliveira is just... Oh, my goodness.
He's out.
He can't let him take his back. Oh, he's got the choke.
He's got the choke. Locked in.
It's over.
Fully locked in. It's over.
Oliveira's under the chin.
Oh, my goodness.
Switches up the grip.
He's going to go to sleep.
Oh, my
That is
goodness.
going to do it.
This dude right
Who
here,
can
man.
stop Charles Oliveira? 11 in a row and still the best lightweight on planet Earth.
Tremendous.
And the submission came about 36 hours after the man had been unceremoniously stripped of his lightweight title. I think most of us are in agreement on that by now. The champion has a name, Charles Oliveira. You can hear the emotion in the call. It just felt like the world, was up against Charles Oliveira, and a breakthrough like that, had to give it to Charles Oliveira, my 2022 submission of the year. All right, so now somewhat sadly, we do get to our newly named American Psycho Stephan Bonnar Memorial Fight of the Year. Now, Kenny and I had the same selection here, but as you know, if you were listening off the top, can't land on the same fight. Kenny's got seniority, of course, as the former professional athlete who thrice fought for the UFC title. So here now, Flo's Choice 2022 Fight of the Year.
Kenny Florian's 2022 Fight of the Year. Gilbert Burns and Hamza Chimaev.
Hamza Chimaev, minus 525, the betting favorite at close against Gilbert Burns.
Oh, Gilbert clipped him in the left.
Oh, and an uppercut for Burns. Chimaev backs up.
Oh, he tagged him again.
John, I need a Modelo. As intense as any non-title fight I can ever remember. 3.5 to go. Crack from Burns! 3 in a row now. Chimaev says, bring it! Gilbert's just throwing everything he has in his soul right now. All heart down the stretch as Chimaev lands again. What a fight! Hamza Chimaev and Gilbert Burns go the full 15, and a nice display of sportsmanship. Wow. Their lives are linked forever now.
What a fight! What a fight!
And for those wondering whether or not Hamza Chimaev had the ticker to go with all of the dominating skills, he has that. And for Gilbert Burns accepting this challenge, thriving in it, an incredible 15 minutes we'll be talking about for years to come.
Ken Flo, Gilbert Burns, Hamza Chimaev, no doubter for you, the 2022 Fight of the Year.
Yeah, just a classic fight. And, leading up to that fight, it just felt like it was huge. Why? Because we knew that we were going to find out what Chimaev was really made out of. He was going against a guy in Gilbert Burns who was really dangerous everywhere. And we knew that both men were going to be tested. And that's exactly what happened. Both men had great moments in that fight. It was back and forth. Just awesome exchanges throughout. Chimaev walking out to the fight, ends up hanging out, sitting on top of the cage as he waited for Gilbert Burns, waited for the fight to get started. I mean, there are just so many great parts about it. The energy, as you mentioned during that fight, was just something very, very different. And that is rare when you have non-title fights. And I think it's a testament to the kind of star that Chimaev is and the kind of fighters that both Gilbert Burns and Chimaev is. Gilbert, coming off of that loss from Kamaru Usman from, I was like 1 or 2 fights ago, previous to that fight, I felt like he needed to show himself and the world that he is much more than that performance against Usman. And he just let it all hang out there. And I think that's a pivotal moment for him in his career, going against, an unstoppable force there in Chimaev.
No, I love it. And it takes two to tango, of course, and both deserve a lot of credit. I do think you're wise to sort of highlight the Chimaev effect because you heard it in the call, and I know you referenced it there on the back end. That's as intense a non-title fight as I've ever called. Paul Felder said on the broadcast, that is the best fight that he's ever called in his life. And we congratulate Gilbert Burns and Hamza Chimaev. They get Ken Flo's hardware for the Stephan Bonnar American Psycho Fight of the Year. All right. Anthony Lionheart Smith, I don't know if he listens to the Anik and Florian podcast, but he is going to hate my selection for Fight of the Year. Technically speaking, right, a masterpiece maybe it was not, but man, did it deliver, and a whole lot more than just a new undisputed UFC champion.
Jon Anik's 2022 Fight of the Year. Jiri Prochazka and Glover Teixeira.
Something's got to give as we decide the UFC light heavyweight championships. And the physicality of Teixeira at 42, a sight to behold.
Oh, come on. I mean, the impact, you can hear it.
Yeah, you can hear it. We've got on like soundproof and headphones. That's where the confidence came from. Knowing that he possibly won round one, and he knows that he can go get takedowns late.
This fight has had it all.
Several occasions, both men have nearly been finished.
Yeah, it's been tremendous. And this is just your review.
Massive right from Teixeira! Prohaska!
He's going to be trying to survive! Big mistake! Why would you do that?
He had guillotine, he had him hurt bad.
His opponent out on his feet almost.
This is crazy.
It really is. It's just an epic battle of wills right now.
Well, we've had a lot of great live events in 2022. None better than UFC 275.
It's out! He's got it!
Prohaska has done it! Nearly at the gun! There is a new light heavyweight champion! The Czech Republic has got one! Yuri Prohaska!
It was a true war. Gilbert is a true warrior, and I like that.
I don't know, do I look slappy 42 out there?
No, you look good, man. You look good. You look like you got more in you.
Then I'm going to keep going.
My man. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the former champion, Glover Teixeira.
And by the time some of you listen or watch this, Glover Teixeira will have already made his way to Rio de Janeiro, where he will fight Jamal Hill for the undisputed UFC light heavyweight title January 21 as we kick off the pay-per-view portion in 2023. But yeah, my fight of the year, UFC 275, Singapore, Yuri Prohaska, Glover Teixeira. That was insane. I mean, I don't really remember a lot of things. I remember the suit I was wearing that night. I mean, that was an absolutely crazy fight, and Anthony Smith is just going to have to forgive me. All right. Independent arbitrator has ruled that the 2022 Female Fighter of the Year is so unanimously Zhang Weili that Kenny and I can land on Zhang Weili. Obviously, she had the spinning back fist against Joanna Jędrzejczyk and then wrested the title away from Carla Esparza in a fight that largely she was expected to win. Zhang Weili, the consensus 2022 Female Fighter of the Year here on the Anik and Florian Podcast. And then that brings us to our Adam Snacks Geller Memorial Male Fighter of the Year. If you don't know, Adam was on our television crew for the UFC, really one of our most beloved UFC television crew members. He was my stage manager for Bellator Season 1 all the way back in 2009. Still so saddened by his passing nearly 6 years later. Kenny obviously got very close with him as well and felt his loss profoundly. So every year we immortalize Adam Snacks Geller on the Anik and Florian Podcast. Here is Kenny's Male Fighter of 2022.
Kenny Florian's 2022 Male Fighter of the Year, Alexander Volkanovski.
He is a special champion. I mean, you want to talk about a man with a will. I mean, his will and his mind, his unbreakable mind.
If he gets knocked down again, I think it's safe to say Herb might jump in.
Down to it! And still the best featherweight in the world. Make it 21 in a row.
I mean, he's better than he's ever been, and he was already the best.
For all the great performances he's had, Joe, at the end of it all, they'll always point back to July 2nd, 2022 as a day that he truly etched himself in the record books, because he will go up 3-0 if Max Holloway does not finish him here. And he will have done it in a way that there will be no more questions.
Yes. That's probably the most important thing. This is not a close fight.
He has to be in shape, has to be ready. So for Alexander to do this and pitch this shutout against this version, tremendous.
Well, Max Holloway was game as hell, but the champion Alexander Volkanovski with a signature performance tonight. What now, he says to the broadcast booth? Nothing.
We ain't got nothing for him.
What's on the line for him?
If he could do that to Max Holloway, like, who's next?
Who is next?
It'll be Islam Makhachev, as many of you know. It'll be in Perth for the undisputed lightweight championship as Volk tries to join that illustrious club of double champions. Kenny, I know I talk about this on the award show, but if this was the Mixed Martial Arts Writers Association of America and I was entrusted with a vote, you may have to go Volkanovski, right? I mean, and I understand why you landed on the Volk man. What distanced him from the pack for you, kid?
Well, not only is he the male fighter of the year, I think he's the best fighter in the sport overall, to be honest. I don't think there's a better all-around fighter than Alexander Volkanovski. You talk about his sophisticated stand-up, his sharp footwork, champion mindset, his understanding of the sport, and how much of a professional he is. And when it comes down to it, when the pressure and the lights and everything is on the line, he executes like nobody else in the sport right now. So he's been dominant in one of the toughest weight classes in the sport, and he's done so by letting his fighting do the talking. He's a brilliant fighter who I don't think gets enough credit. So for me, it was a clear choice for Alexander Volkanovski.
I'm not going to make you answer this question, but if you had to send either Beneil Dariush or Alexander Volkanovski in there to beat Islam Makhachev, who do you think has a better chance? A lot of people feel like Dariush stylistically can pose some problems for Makhachev. I wouldn't sleep on Volkanovski come mid-February with that Perth backdrop, man. You know, he's got a lot of ways to win that fight.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you talk about the team that surrounds him and how confident he is right now, just continues to get better. That dude's elite. I can't wait for that fight against Makhachev.
All right. And for me, you know which way I was going. Let's now hear from my 2022 Adam Snacks Geller Memorial Male Fighter of the Year.
Can't put into words, Joe. It's been a long 4 years. Don't doubt me, I couldn't do it. The odds that I couldn't do it. Look at me now. Level pound for pound. Headshot, dead.
I only got chills twice during the taping of the award show today. It was the Dave Lavelle soundbite and that from Leon Edwards. Unbelievable. Leon Edwards, I had to give him the biggest trophy. He gets my Male Fighter of the Year for 2022. All right, now we have a new category this year, as recommended by producer to the stars, Cody Merrow, Personality of the Year. And Ken Flo, you went with the intrinsic, the thoughtful, the well-rounded Renaissance man, Yuri Prochazka. Oh, we got audio for Yuri. Let's hear from Ken Flo's winner for 2022 Personality of the Year.
Kenny Florian's 2022 Personality of the Year, Yuri Prochazka.
Disappointed from that. This is so unrespectful. He's showing he's not a warrior. He is just a trash.
I like the money, my egos. I like the money to have everything, the girls, the cars. But the other side from myself wants to live just in the forest, in the small house, and practice day by day. Just practice and going for the mastery day by day. Nothing else. I think that's the most realist side in my.
Credit to Ariel Helwani in the MMA Hour for that first soundbite. Yuri Prochazka, he's your type. He's your Personality of the Year.
He's absolutely unique, man. Just a unique individual who was fascinating to me. We don't hear a lot about him. He doesn't give a lot of interviews, but that almost adds to his mystique a little bit. He has just enough crazy. You know, this is a guy who's willing to lock himself in a dark room for days to find something else out about himself and prepare him for war. He's unlike anybody else in the game, dude. And man, such unfortunate news about his shoulder. I hope he's back and recovers as quickly as possible. The sport needs people like Yuri.
Yeah, the sport's got a lot of different personalities, some sort of bigger than life, others doing it their own way like Yuri Prochazka. My winner, I believe, is actually a 3-time winner on Bilal Muhammad's Remember the Show video podcast with my twin bro Jason right here on the Anik and Florian podcast channel. This dude is the real article, man. As good a human being as he is a fighter, and he has got the chance to change his life forever 18 days from now. My 2022 Personality of the Year.
Jon Anik's 2022 Personality of the Year. Remember the Show champion, Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill.
Well, I'm definitely ready to take over my throne.
I already told you I got the buckets for y'all. I'm trying to get in the Celebrity All-Star game.
Let's get it. We bringing real hoopers this Time. He's not catching us lacking this time. We still lacking. We still got off in that ass, but now we really got to step off in.
I'm not trying to hear none of that shit. I based my name on that shit, and I went out there and put my shit on the line and made it happen. Sword shit, all of that. I went through the fire.
Literally, when they called me, I was in line, literally just ate Thanksgiving dinner. I just beat my card to pay for it. It's like, hello? I was like, hello? I was like, I can't ignore all this food that I just bought. Cut 30 pounds in the next couple weeks. Or I can eat.
Yeah.
Eat one.
Thanks to James Lynch, and remember the show for the audio, Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill. And Ken Flo, in the next 2 weeks, a lot of people are going to learn about Jamal Hill and what a good dude he is and just how much he can bring to the fight game. It's a golden opportunity. It sounds trite, but if he can beat Glover Teixeira and become the UFC light heavyweight champion, he's a great athlete, man. He really is. And I just think he can talk the game. He can walk the walk. I don't know. I'm excited that we have a category that I can give him some hardware for. Maybe he'll be in that Fighter of the Year mix as a UFC champion next year. All right. That is it for the 2022 Anik and Florian Podcast Awards. We thank you for indulging us. Before we get on out of here, Cody, I don't know if you have an NFL prediction for the folks, but we will be back next week. We will have complete predictions for the UFC's first event of next year, UFC Fight Night, and the main event, Kelvin Gastelum versus Nassourdine Imavov, as we begin our countdown as well to UFC 283 and the aforementioned title fight, Jamal Hill versus Glover Teixeira. Thanks to our executive producer, Cody Merrow, for putting it all together, and thanks to Ray Longo, Ken Flo's winner for 2022 Coach of the Year. For my man Ken Flo, I'm Jon Anik. Thank you all for listening, for watching. Big things in 2023. Happy New Year. We'll talk to you next week. Until then, yo later.